With the high demand for residential in Costanoa, its most prominent property developers have been vying for control over the development of the hillside just outside of the city. However, with the help of movie star Garrison Dodge, who starred in the recent hit film Galactic Conflict, property development firm Bayside Builders has snatched up the land and is planning a new neighborhood. Meanwhile, some of the rising stars in Costanoa's real estate development world are disappointed in the sale of the land to an outsider from Hollywood and are looking elsewhere for their next venture. Up next, I'm going to be building that hillside neighborhood. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to back out, and I'm actually going to go over to this hill and start planning out this neighborhood. First thing I want to do is I want to check out the contour lines and get a sense of where I want some of the major roads to be. And I'm also noticing that this tile here that I don't have is where the top of the hill is. So the first thing I'll actually do is I'm just going to go ahead and purchase that. And it's 128,000, so that should be fine. And because I have that hill purchased now, I can plan better for where this neighborhood is going to be without having to worry about overlapping with land that I don't own. And while I'm at it, actually, I'll also go ahead and extend the borders of the city out, just so I don't forget. And actually, there is one thing that I promised I would do before I built out this neighborhood, and that is I'm going to rename one of the streets. And I've got a buddy who has been asking for a street to be named Shim Street. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. I'm going to make it this parallel street to Market Street, and it goes all the way through, and I believe it should go all the way over here. Let's see. Yeah, so it goes all the way over here. So it's a pretty prominent street. This is something I've done in my other cities for him. So yeah, now we've got it in here in Costanoa. So the first thing I've been doing is I've been trying to figure out where do I want my primary road to be in this area. And I was thinking about first, like, where do I want it come out over here? Because I want it to connect into this highway somewhere. And I think right where it kind of flattens out a little bit right here is where I want that to come in. So that puts us on about this major contour line here. So I think it makes sense to kind of bring this road around here and follow that a little bit. Where I want it to ultimately end, though, is right here with this street. So I want it to actually meet up with this street. And the reason for that is because if we follow this street down here, you can see that we're kind of passing by some non-residential uses, like this medical facility here. It also is near this bus depot, and then some commercial and some offices. So it's already a street that has a fair bit of use. So I don't feel like adding in another through route here is going to have any sort of, it's not going to cause any sort of problems for this particular roadway. Like, it's already a highly trafficked area, and I think that makes sense for this street right here. And then if you come all the way down here, it goes all the way to our new shopping center here and passes by this school. So I think it just overall makes sense to make this like main through road in this area. The first thing I'll do is I'm going to do a bit of grading up front so that I'm not facing any sort of like terrible grades right here. And I think I'm going to start right here just because it's a little bit easier. And right off the bat, I've added in another roundabout here, and that's kind of why I put the road right here. Is I got as close as I could to the boundaries that I have while still being able to put in a roundabout, and then it follows this major contour line pretty well. So up next, I'm just gonna go and follow this a ways until probably around here, and then I'm gonna start bringing it down to this contour line right here. And I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, but the one thing I want to change a little bit is actually right here. I'd like this to be a little bit more gradual, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back a little bit, and then a way you can kind of make these a little bit less of like just a straight increase in elevation is you can do kind of like what I've done here is I've just done a ramp straight up, but what you can also do is you can go about to the midpoint and go a little bit further, and then it'll be a little bit more gradual at the end. So you can kind of see like it's a little bit steeper right here, and it's a little bit less steep right here, and then it kind of smooths out. So that's just a way you can kind of manipulate the slope terrain tool to get a little bit more natural of a curve in your elevations. And then while I'm here, I'm going to smooth everything out just so, and there we go. And it's pretty important to me to try to maintain as best as I can the shape of these hills. It's easy to use these terrain tools excessively in City Skylines too. And that's definitely not something that you'll see in really most real cities, particularly with like huge hills like this. Like you're never going to just flatten this out all the way. So I want to maintain the shape as best as I can. The next thing I want to start thinking about is where I'm going to place the kind of cornerstone piece of this area, which is going to be the film actor mansion, which probably is, I wanted to put it up like all the way on top of the hill. I'm not 100% sure that's a great idea. Like I feel like it's a little bit much to have a house like all the way up here, just given kind of what I want to do with the area. Like I don't want to have this hill just be completely fully developed, especially not right now. Like I don't think it makes sense to go all the way up here and develop the entire thing, but I do want that particular asset to have a very good view out over the bay right here and probably the city as well. So if I kind of look here, I think like right around this area is pretty good because this asset is fairly large. Turn on the contour lines. Yeah, it's pretty big. And this is kind of an area where the hill flattens out just a little bit. So even potentially right here, not so high up. And then potentially like having a park area on top right here is what I'm going to go for. That still leaves like quite a lot of the neighborhood to be developed, particularly like this land right here. So I'll probably do that first, just because I know that this is not going to be as important in terms of like where I put the roads and everything. I can kind of just continue out where I've been coming from, and I don't have to do anything special for any particular asset right here. And once again, I'm going to want to consider what my major roads are in the other part of my road network so that I can kind of continue that pattern in this new neighborhood. And if I look at it from this aerial view here, I can kind of tell that these two, and this is how I plan it as well, like these two streets right here, so this one going right here and then following up here, going this way is important, and then this one as well in this direction. Of those two, I would say that the first one that I pointed out right here is a little bit more natural of a point to continue on the grid, at least for like a kind of a main street. So what I think I want this one to do is I want it to continue up this way, kind of cut up the hill, and then I'm going to try to probably either continue it out here, and then maybe in the future it'll tee in right here. I think that's probably what I'll do, is I'll plan for that. So I want to start there, and then kind of these other streets here are probably where I will continue out the grid and kind of try to follow the hill as best as I can. Right here, because this hill is kind of at a steep point right here, at least relative to like how much space we have. If I actually just like check it out, I think it's 5%, and that's probably okay. So I may also do the same here and continue that one up to this area here. And one of the things that I forgot about is that I placed this telecom tower right here without really putting any thought into the continuation of Belmont Street. The way I think I want to handle that is I probably will just actually move it over a little bit, and maybe even find a new place for it. Like I'm looking like right around here. It could potentially slide in back here, and I don't think that would be a terrible place to put it. And yeah, so I checked out this little area here, and it's definitely not great, not what I really want, but just because there's a lot of like contour lines right here and kind of look strange back here. So I think what I'm just going to do is I'm going to move it over just a touch so that I can at the very least continue my roads the way they've been going. And hopefully right there will allow me to continue this road right here without any issues. It will. And then I should be able to also continue this one on its current line. Yeah, so that works out well. So I'll place in this first road and I'm going to start a little bit further back right here, just so it's a little bit easier to get the 180-degree angle. I'll bring it out probably around here. And then, like I said, I think I want it to end about here, but not go in to this road. I don't want it to intersect. And it's going to be a little bit of a pain for me. So yeah, so that'll allow it to intersect nicely if I ever want it to. I'll probably have to redo this road at some point, but the intent is there at least. And then I'll just kind of bring it in pretty naturally, I think. And I ended up doing a couple of kind of wonky things there, but I think that's fine given the hill. And then I'm kind of noticing up here, it looks a little bit strange. So I'm going to adjust that just a little bit. And it probably doesn't really look that much different, but I like it a little bit more. It follows the contour line just a bit better. And then for now, I think I'm just going to kind of finish up this little quadrant right here and then continue up like any sort of street that I put here. I'm just going to continue up this way. So I've come up against this hill right here and I'm noticing that it's a little bit steep. So basically what I'm trying to go for is somewhere around 5%. This is up to 6%. That's about, I think it's just a little bit too high for what I'm going for in terms of the slope of this road. So what I'm going to do is I'll have to zoom in a little bit and then I can kind of curve this a little bit this way. And you can see now it's 4.6%, a little bit hard to see with all the stuff going on there, but that's probably a little bit better. And then I think once I bring it up here, yeah, we can get to a 5% grade. And that's just a little bit more manageable in terms of keeping the hill intact and in its same shape. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do in City Skylines on hills. Like at some point you actually do have to grade the hill a little bit just so buildings spawn in and don't look crazy. But what I'm trying to do here is just make the most of the hill that I can without making it look totally different from what it started as. And as we get over here, what I think I want to do is I want to kind of go in the middle of these two hills and put just a straight street right through. And the reason for that is that there's just a lot of space between here. So I want to make kind of another point where I can build off of that follows the hill as best as I can. And I can't really continue it too far down here, but it might allow me to kind of swing that up a little bit and get a few more homes back here. And then I can probably connect in possibly here. So I decided to just connect straight in here just because I think once I start getting these homes in, they're going to start pushing into this hill and there's not going to be very much space right here that I can actually build with. What I think I'll do in this area is a big thing I'll continue from my other neighborhood right here is I'm going to continue using these paths and create a pedestrian network all throughout this area. And that one will be a little bit larger and it should fit in pretty well with this hillside. Once I get it landscaped as well, it'll just kind of feel like walking through a forest in this neighborhood. At least that's what I'm going for. For now, I think what I'll do is I'll continue out some of these streets and kind of connect them as best as I can to Cherry Street up here. And after a little bit of thought, I could really only, I think, get this one in here for it to make sense. I could try to do something here, but it would have to come out at a different angle and it gets a little bit close to that street. And then right here, I don't have any street that comes all the way through. So I think I'm just going to kind of leave it as a very large block. Probably, like I said, bring in a pedestrian path. And then what I want to do with Cherry Street is I want to have one more spot where you can get all the way up to here. But this won't be a very traffic street. It's basically just going to be a local street because it's going to get you from here on this street over to this street. But then it's going to be kind of difficult to get anywhere from here. You're going to have to go here and down, or you're going to have to go here and down. So it just becomes like a little bit awkward to use as a cut through. At least that's my hope. And now that I have that in there, I think the next thing I want to think about is what I mentioned before with having the film actor mansion up on this area right here. And I think the best way to do that is probably to have a road coming off of Elizabeth Street right around here, cut up the hill just a little bit, and then go over in this direction. And I may have to do a little bit of flattening out the terrain here, but I think that's okay. I'll try to push around the soil such that I'm preserving soil that's here. Once I do that, I think I'm going to just bring this around this way, and then eventually a street is probably going to come right over here. And then that'll be another major through street. So you could get from this side down to here, or you could continue on this way and get to the central city. Just from a traffic flow perspective, that's kind of what I'm thinking about is if you're all the way over on this side of the city, I want you to have multiple options to get to multiple different parts of the city. So you'd have one option to get to this neighborhood right here, another option to get kind of adjacent to this neighborhood as well as to this neighborhood right here, and then two more options to get into the Bayside area over here as well as to Market Street, and then you can go along there. So I hope that all makes sense. These are the kinds of things that I like to think about when I'm playing this game. I think it's just kind of fun to think about those, but you end up kind of with a lot of weirdness like right here, and it also is dependent on me remembering that I actually want to put a street all the way through here. I think I will, but we'll see. I may end up doing something different. That often happens. Okay, and then right here, I think about the placement of that film actor mansion right away. I'll do that up front. So if I take a look at it, it will go somewhere like around here, I think facing this way as well. And I'll probably want to cut a little bit out this way and then add a little bit over here. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I kind of pick a contour line in the middle right here, like this one, what I'll do is I'll take out some of the soil from this side. And this, you don't actually have to do this. This is just kind of like, it makes it feel a little bit more realistic, I guess. And then you kind of move that soil out to this side. And maybe I'll take a little bit more out here. So that's the general idea, is now I have a building pad that kind of preserves the amount of soil that was already here. And then once I kind of flatten it out, it should still look pretty natural on the hillside. So I'll get that placed in here. It's actually a lot more space than I need. That's always a good thing to have quite a bit more than you think you need. And I'll try to aim it down this hill like so. And the reason I placed it a little bit up from that, the edge of this plot right here, is so that I could then soften this out without coming too close. There we go. And that's always a bit of a difficult one, is I actually think I got kind of lucky here. A little bit of having done this before, but I was lucky with having kind of the right amount of soil to soften with. And then I'm going to go ahead and place my road in first, and I'm going to take just a bit more out on either side here. And you'll see in a second why I've done that. So yeah, I wanted to kind of curve the road like that so it'll follow contour lines better. And then also I wanted it to be straight right here, just because with what I'm going to do here, which is put in like a one-way loop right here, I think it's just going to be a little bit better from like, if you're trying to get back onto this road right here and it's a curve, it's going to be kind of hard to see in some other directions. But I think with this being a straight line, it gives you a little bit of an extra sight line left and right when you're trying to turn onto this road. And I was kind of thinking about bringing this all the way over here and connecting up with this one. I'm not going to actually do that because of the fact that this street right here goes all the way kind of through here. So I think it might lead to that being more highly trafficked. And I don't want this portion right here, this Sheffield Street, to be a highly trafficked street at the moment, at least. Just because I think the film actor here, Garrison Dodge, he's going to want his street to be fairly private at the moment. And, you know, that's why he's paying to build his own entire neighborhood. And for now, I'm going to keep this street right here, which is now called Valley Street for whatever reason. I'm going to keep that as is right here, ending right here, just so I can have a little bit more flexibility as I plan going forward the rest of this area. But before I continue the rest of this build and fill it out with zoning, I did want to mention one thing, which is that this build is somewhat inspired by a comment from J La 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 La. I don't know if that's exactly how I'm supposed to say that, but yeah, it's J La La La. And they had mentioned wanting some, you know, hillside development. And I also wanted to make sure that I was kind of doing justice to the history of San Francisco and kind of how it developed. So I went and I looked up a map of the growth of San Francisco over time. And if I remember correctly, it goes from the 1800s, like 1850 up until about 1970. And you can kind of see on the map how they start the development of the city in a similar place as Costanoa is. So right around here. And then the development actually kind of reaches out, kind of how I've been doing in this direction. But there is, I think, a little bit of development on the hill. So I don't actually think it's all that unrealistic to be taking on some hillside development right now. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out that comment. And then in the future, some of the other development is going to go a little bit differently from what I'm seeing in the growth of San Francisco map that I'm looking at here. But that is going to be for a future episode, so I'm not going to spoil any of that. For now, what I think I want to do is I'm just going to start placing in some homes here, and I'll try to also use some of the, I think it was UK multifamily housing that was mentioned before in that comment as well, and kind of probably just pepper in a variety of different types of homes here. So I put in some of this UK multifamily housing right here and got a couple of different lot sizes going. And I'm looking at it here. I don't think it looks that strange to have kind of like this difference right here between the fronts of the homes. I think that kind of like makes it blend a little bit better. I also added in some like stores right here on the corner. I think in general, the one issue I have with the UK assets like this is that they only come in like a few different sizes. So you have like this one right here, which I believe is like a 4x4, and then this one, which is like a 2x2, it looks like. And there's not a whole lot of variety in terms of like the assets you get out of that. So I think what I'm gonna do is probably just gonna like put maybe a block here, a block there. Just gonna spread it out, disperse it a little bit, I guess. And one thing that I want to do, I probably will actually reconsider where exactly I was putting this. I don't know that I want it to be on this particular street right here, Cherry Street, just because it's not like that prominent of a street. Like I'd rather have it be on Willow Street right here and kind of have that act as like the center spot for this city. So kind of everything's gonna like maybe funnel towards Willow Street and then this commercial area right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go back on what I did here and move this somewhere else because I think it will fit better somewhere else than where I've put it. So what I'll do is I'll probably go like along these streets here, and I do like how it will look, I think, coming up these streets. So what I'll do is I'll probably put some like right here and here, and then as well on this side, kind of going up. And then up here, I'll probably put some lower density residential. So most of that area has built in, and I think it does look quite a bit better right here as it is. And I've added in a few paths just to make it a little bit easier to get places. And actually I do need to add just one more. I'll do that right now. Down to there. And some of the slopes on the paths are a lot larger than streets, for instance. And that's just because I think it's more reasonable to have steeper slopes on a path, and I think that's actually just kind of too crazy. So I'm gonna redo that. But yeah, basically, like, I'm not as concerned about slopes on paths as I am on slopes for streets for cars to get up to. Whether or not that's realistic, I don't know, but that's just kind of, in terms of like an aesthetic point of view, I think it's works out well that way. It should be a little bit better. So yeah, I've kind of like, oh no, I've kind of ruined my terraforming. There we go. Kind of, yeah, used a lot of the UK assets, particularly around like this area, and then you can kind of zoom in, get a look at it. I think it does look pretty cool with like going up the hill here, terracing up. It looks pretty neat. And then right here, I think I need to still figure out what to do. And just overall, there's a lot of landscaping opportunities in here and detailing opportunities. And then up here, added some waterfront homes. The idea being there that these are, you know, these people can afford to have pools and hot tubs and stuff. And then if we zoom in, I don't know if there are any two-story buildings here, but if they ever upgrade to two-story buildings, which maybe they will, they'll have like a fantastic view of the city and the bay. So that was the idea there for putting the waterfront homes. In the rest of this area, I think I want to go not too crazy, because I think I want this particular area to be the most detailed, as well as right up here. The rest of it, I don't want to go too crazy on, just because it'll take a while to do. So what I'll do first is I'm just going to go about like all of these areas right here and fill them out with zoning, and then I'll leave the detailing for last. And as far as zoning goes, I think that's probably where I want to leave it for now. There's some extra space over here and then in this area over here, but it's just, I think I'd rather wait a little bit before I start doing anything on that side. And then up here, this is essentially just a private drive for this mansion up here. And I'll keep it that way for now, but the contingency is that eventually this will continue on and meet up with a different road so that this becomes a through street. For now though, because it's like private, I don't want to put any other homes there yet. I placed a few parks and just some small spaces around here. There's probably room to add even more. I mean, if we take a look at our coverage, there is a decent amount here. And for some reason, I'm not liking how it doesn't show me the actual coverage of these parks. So let me go ahead and look at the info view for that. And somehow, I guess it's maybe just the roads that I'm supposed to be seeing. I thought there was a better way to see the coverage of parks, but it looks like it's just good coverage everywhere. So with that in mind, I don't think I actually need to add any more. The last thing I will do though is I'm gonna add in some tree detailing around here, because if you look at this other neighborhood over here, it looks a lot more complete. This one over here kind of looks barren. So what I'll do is I'll just add in trees throughout here, and you can see the pathway network that I've put in here. And the idea there was I basically just wanted to make it a little bit easier to get around the neighborhood on foot and prioritize it over the car while still allowing these homes to be very spread out. So it has like a dense feel to it in that it's easier to kind of just get around the neighborhood. It's very walkable, but there's almost like a more rural feel to it as well, in that your home is fairly spaced out from the other homes. And then everything kind of funnels in to this main central area here that I was talking about that has a little bit of commercial on the corners here and a little bit more density. But for now, I will get to that tree detailing. And as far as tree detailing goes, I think I'm going to leave it right there, just because you can definitely tell that there's just a lot of trees right here. It even is more so than right here. So if you kind of look from our downtown here and you kind of go upwards up the hill here, and then finally up to this neighborhood, it kind of, there's like a differing gradient. So if you go this way, you get more trees. And if you go this way, you get more density of buildings. So the way I'm thinking about that is it's kind of like a trade-off. Over here, you might have more amenities, more housing. Over here, you'll have more nature. For now, I have left the detailing of the film actor mansion, and let me rename that really quick. So I went back and forth a little bit, but I named it the Dodge Estate, or Garrison Dodge. And yeah, so I've left that detailing. I'm going to do that probably in the next episode, because I imagine this one's already getting kind of long. I'm also going to be leaving any sort of detailing over here for next episode, just because that commercial demand has not rebounded yet. The other thing I quickly wanted to take a look at was if I go over to the info view and check out the transportation, I did want to see if our buses were doing any better, just because it's now been a while. And they're still pretty low. That temporary one that I put in for people to leave the city as a solution to the fix for the homeless bug, it might be time to actually just remove that one. I don't think it's really necessary anymore. And I'm gonna go ahead and just do that because I don't think I want it to be here. And we'll see what happens when I do that. I don't know if the homelessness thing will crop up again, but for now, I don't think it's really necessary anymore. It should make our usage numbers here a little bit more realistic now that we don't have that other line in here. I am somewhat disappointed in the overall usage here, but I imagine that the more we build out our city, the more those lines will be used, because I'm pretty confident in like the way that the routes are set up. Like, I think they're fundamentally sound in that sense. Like if we take a look at this first one, click on our bus routes and make the others invisible. Yeah, so if we take a look at this first one, I still like think it's a sound enough route that it goes like through the city and hits a lot of the major spots. We can take a look at the other ones as well. But yeah, I ultimately think that they're pretty solid routes. So I'm not sure exactly why the utilization's not that high. We're seeing a little bit higher usage now on the one route, but it's something I want to keep an eye on in the future. The other thing that I think is new since the update is if we check out Willow Street right here, I think, yeah, we can actually look at the traffic routes. So this might also be helpful in the future for planning transit. Like you can see here, I believe we've got blue is road. So a lot of people are taking this from this sort of an area, it looks like, to get to work. So that might be an issue. I wonder if we actually take a look at this street right here, which is actually also called Willow Street. Funny. And we look at the routes for that one. I have a hunch that, like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of traffic going this way. So I don't know. I think people might be going along this street instead of taking the bus that goes along this street. And they're both named Willow Street, and that's really just not gonna fly because they actually intersect each other. So I'm just gonna rename this one to like Weeping Street, and then we'll get the intersection of Weeping and Willow. We'll go with that for now. And that's going to do it for this one. I hope you can see kind of the vision I have for this area and how it respects the topography. And that was one of the original goals I had, but I also wanted to make sure that I had a rich pedestrian network in this area. As the city continues to grow and there's an increasing need for denser buildings, I think an area like this could pose a really interesting project in terms of redeveloping it, just because it has a very wonky roadway network. And I think those are the sorts of problems that I want to run into later down the line, and I think will make for a fun series. Is like, once you kind of get down here, it's going to be a challenge to redevelop this in such a way that it makes sense, given that the traffic is going to have to kind of go in these strange directions. In the next episodes, I will go ahead and detail out the rest of this and get that film actor mansion detailed a little bit better, as well as come back to that Japantown area. But that'll do it for now, and I will see you in the next one.